And good, everybody, and welcome to another edition of our Wildcat Radio Coaches Show, live right here at Crystal River Seafood in South McClenny on State Road 121. Mike Cruz, Jackie Baker, and normally the head coach of the Baker County Wildcats, Jamie Rogers. He'll join us in just a little while. He's running a little bit late tonight, but we've got a special guest that will join us. I'll introduce him in just a minute. Wildcats played this past Friday night. We had Dunellen in our final regular season game of the year. It's hard to believe the season has come to a close, but I want to thank everybody for listening in tonight. If you're in the area, if you're in the McClenny area, stop by and see us. We're out here on the patio behind Crystal River. Got a big crowd here tonight for the show. And I want to thank Jack Baker, Justin Webb, Ricky Duggar, the folks down at Florida Farm Bureau, make our show possible each and every week and sponsor our Farm Bureau Player of the Game. We'll tell you who that was against Dunellen in just a few minutes, and then also want to thank Big Boy Sandwich Shop down on US 90. Another chance for those $1 Wildcat cones this Friday night, as the Wildcats will play a home game here against Hernando, and so that's exciting. So thanks to Big Boys, and also I'll throw this out there a couple of times during the night. Tim Hughes down at American Recycle sponsors our weekly text line here on the show. So I want to give you an opportunity to text in and tell us what you're thinking about the season so far. The Wildcats, again, win the district championship this year, headed to the playoffs this week. And we'll tell you who we're going to play, and we'll break down all that stuff in just a minute. But Tim Hughes, the American Recycle text line is 904-859-6383. 904-859-6383. So if you've got a question for the coach or just a comment about Wildcat football in general, give us a text. So, Jackie, good evening. I also want to bring in our special guest. We've got a former Wildcat baseball coach. We've got a former quarterback from Merritt Island, a former just about anything in the world that you can say about a person or have the opportunity to do. This guy's done it. My man, John Staples. How's it going, John?
It's going great.
And I'm not kidding when I say that. I mean, some of the things he puts on Instagram are not his pictures, but some of them are.
The majority are. And state championship quarterback.
I should have said state championship quarterback.
Not just a quarterback.
And how many district championships did you win as a baseball coach here?
Here I won 6.
6, and then previous?
4.
So, legendary baseball coach, is known by many people, certainly throughout the state of Florida. John, really, Coach Rogers will be here in a little while. We always like having you on the show.
Good to be here. Good to be here. Looking forward to Friday night. Like I told the kids today, if your granny or granddaddy or little kids are coming to the game Friday night, keep them off the first 6 rows because there's going to be shrapnel flying.
So, honestly, one of the first things I ask Coach Rogers each week is, how was practice today?
Today was a great day. And I'm not even talking the physical part, the mental part, bringing the dog to them. We're gonna have flea powder on the sideline Friday night for the guys that want to be dogs. And then we're also going to have a litter box over there, too, if they choose to go the other way.
Well, so, I mean, and I think it's great that you bring that up because we're going to talk about that because this past Friday night, the Wildcats were 6-2 up until 2 weeks ago. We were well, so, I mean, and I think it's great that you bring that up because we're going to talk about that because this past Friday night, the Wildcats were 6-2 up until 2 weeks ago. We were 6-2, 4-0 in the district, heading down the stretch, looking like we were going to finish off strong. And 2 weeks in a row, Coach, out of the gate, kind of slow. But this past week's game a little different than the game at Ridgeview. It took a while for us to score over at Ridgeview. Actually, not until the second half. But Friday night was a little bit different. We get a safety early on. They snap the ball over the punter's head. We get a safety. We come back. We get a touchdown. We miss the extra point. I tell Jackie right there, instead of making it a 2-possession game, it's still a 1-possession game. And that's gonna affect you at some point. But maybe you score enough points, you don't think about it. But 8-0, Coach, and that was at the 8-0 at the 4-minute point in the first quarter, and it stayed that score all the way until 3 minutes to go in the third quarter. Did you realize that?
the worrisome part. The part that bothers you is the lack of emotion going on during some of these periods. And I'm talking from the coaching staff all the way down through the players to the people in the stands, everybody. All right? So Friday night, if you're not ready to get after it, stay home, go to the Jacksonville Fair, find you something to do, but don't come up in there Friday night in that mentality, because you're going to get grabbed up by the shoulder pads, or you're going to get grabbed by the purse or the mustache or whatever you get grabbed up by, you're going to get grabbed up by.
A lot of people, I mean, I'm going to let you talk about this, Jackie, but a lot of people, you know, when the energy is, when it's just like being at Florida Field when the Gators are playing. If the energy is strong, you feed off of it. But there's not many days like the day against LSU this year. The Memorial Stadium is the same way here. The Memorial Stadium is the same way. When the energy is at a high level, you can feel it in the stadium, and you can feel that the players, you know, get some energy from that. But Friday night, Jackie, the stadium was dead.
No, we talked about it. I'll be honest with you, and I'm gonna say it because all the people here, I mean, these are the rowdy Wildcat fans. You know, I got one table over there, and I'm not honestly telling them to shut up a lot of the time.
Come on, man. You got the Burns and Crawfords up in here. I mean, come on.
So they take up one section by themselves, and those are the rowdy people. But the people that I saw, man, just sitting on your hands. Listen, if you're in a fourth down situation or a third and short situation, that place has got to be rocking, right?
You're right.
And I tell you, I'm looking around, and I got people taking selfies and, you know, straightening their kids' shirts and things of that nature. That's not going to cut it on a Friday night, man. I like it when you can't hear a thing down there on the field, especially when we're on the defensive side of the all those things we talked about, 10 district titles, you know, you've taken the baseball team into multiple playoff runs, your state championship quarterback, so you know how to win, Coach. Tell me how you pass that knowledge on or get these kids to believe, especially now we're on a 2-week skid. Things are seen down and out a little bit. So how do you flip that and get them back to that dog mentality you're talking about?
My high school coach, who honestly is probably the person that led me into this profession, Gerald Odom, Hall of Fame coach. I told you guys I never lost a game in high school, right? Did I ever tell you all that? So anyway, you understand what I think about my high school football coach.
Yes,
it's like guys off last year, what they think about Jamie Rogers. You know, he took them last year farther than they'd ever been by a couple of games. He said 85% they'd ever been by a couple of games. He said 85% of high school football is won with emotion. All right? Emotion. And if there's one thing that you can put your finger on for sure the last couple of weeks, it's been emotion. And it just hasn't been there. Is it because we had it wrapped up? Who knows? I'm not Dr. Phil. You know, neither is Jamie. But we can take care of that Friday and overcome a lot of things. You know, the other thing that's happened the last couple of weeks is it seems like every break has gone against us. You know, we've had a lot of bad breaks. Will you overcome those with hype and getting momentum? That takes away the bad breaks, you know, and swings things your way. And then those 3 and 4 point losses, 1 point losses, they become 3 touchdown victories. So we're going to be ready. We're going to be ready Friday night, and there's going to be a smoke show, and it's going to be between the sideline to sideline.
Well, I mean, we talked about that too Friday night, as Mike alluded to. You know, there was no score for a long stretch of that ball game, and then all of a sudden, 2 quarters at the end of the third quarter, you could literally. We kept hearing things in between plays. Well, I'll tell you what it was. It was the Nellen sideline. Man, those guys were jacked. They were ready to play, and you could obviously feel that momentum shifting greatly to their side, and that kind of toted them on into the, you know, so exactly what you're talking about and what your coach taught you,
and
man.
You could hear it. You could hear it on our side, which is part embarrassing. And you know, I agree with you, Coach. We got to have a loud fan base Friday night.
Well, we got to give them something to be loud about too. Let's not take that away from it.
Stadium is Friday night.
Well, we got to give them something to be loud about too. Let's not take that away from it.
No, I agree. I know there's a lot of, I correlate all this to all levels of football because the energy level in a stadium is typically as good as the winning or as also as good as the game's expected to be, right? When you get a lot of hype about a certain game, you can expect when you go to that game it's going to be a loud crowd. Hopefully we'll get that Friday night. I think they understand playoffs are a different atmosphere typically than regular season. Coach, what part? So Gerald Odom. So Jerry Odom played linebacker at the University of Florida.
Yes.
And that was 90.
I coached Jerry. I was a coach there. I went back and coached at Merritt Island. That was 84, 85.
So he played late 80s, early 90s.
Late 80s, early 90s.
One of those first Spurrier teams that really set Spurrier days are the fun games to watch with Shane Matthews and Brad Culpepper, and you had oh gosh, I have to go back and think about some of the other guys, but I mean just names that you never even heard of, and he made them into a winning team, and it built something for the future, which was great. But Coach, to your point, what goes in from a player perspective now, and we'll talk about the fan stuff later, but from a player perspective, what do you do to drive that emotion, and how? I mean, is there a way to manufacture it? I heard what you said, Gerald Odom said, but what can we do with this?
You got to be brilliant. I mean, everybody's got to feed off each other. Something else I hadn't seen lately. Somebody makes a big play on defense. I see the guy jump up, point his jersey to the stand so everybody can see who made the tackle. I don't see it look like a gang fight out there when you make a big play. We haven't had that. Where is that? I don't know. Again, it's all part of the process. Once we start getting all that and get excited about what we're doing, then things will take care of itself, and those small losses we've been having are going to turn into big victories.
So as we went down the stretch of the second half the other night, Coach, Jackie said Dunellen got a little momentum. They scored 2 touchdowns in a row, some unanswered. We had an 8-0 lead for the entire game, and then you head into the fourth quarter. They score early in the fourth quarter to make it a 15-8 ball game because they kicked the extra point the second time. So we come back later, Coach, and we had some momentum. John Green on the shark play goes in from 17 yards. What was the decision like right there to go for 2 rather than kick the extra point?
Well, we had trouble. We've been having trouble with the extra points lately.
On the shark play goes in from 17 yards. What was the decision like right there to go for 2 rather than kick the extra point?
Well, we had trouble. We've been having trouble with the extra points lately. We felt we could move the ball 3 yards at will against them, no problem. We had a couple breakdowns, and things didn't happen. So
that started with the high snap on that play, and anytime you take a play out of rhythm like that, I mean, you're losing a half second, which is a big deal.
Like I say, there were a couple breakdowns, things that didn't happen, and there we were. So you tee it up and go, But on that, honestly, with those guys we have up front, if they're on their game, I don't know anybody that should stop us for 3 yards, honestly. But we've got a lot of new things going in offensively this week.
You never know.
Some new things going in this week that people hadn't seen yet, and
we're kind of
not seen this year anyway. And it's going to be what it is, but it's going to come down to what we've already talked about. Are you coming with the dog, or are you going to be standing over in the litter box?
And that was going to be my next question. So you said this a second ago. We got to give you something to be excited about. So what do you do? I mean, let's kind of talk about, the elephant in the room a little bit. We've just been very porous on offense lately, just not a lot going on. What are we going to do different this week to get back to maybe a Menendez game or a Clay game, where we can put up 28 and 40 points?
Well, number one, you got to concentrate on the job at hand, and concentrate on business happen. We can't have 10 guys on defense stuffing them, and one guy not do his assignment, and we give up a 60-yard play. You know, everybody's got to work together. We got to come together. The main thing, going back to it again, the emotion, but that all comes from rallying, all right, for the cause. And if you do that, then things are going to take care of themselves, and life gets a whole lot easier, and we start playing up to our potential, which people can say, you know, not as good as we were last year. Let me tell you something. Last year, all right, if you ask people, it was a whole lot more talented team last year. All right, you ask anybody. They went 9-1. You ask anybody, what should they have gone last year in the regular season? 9-1. This year, okay, supposedly not as much talent. If you ask me, I don't know about anybody. If you ask me, I don't know about anybody else, but I think we ought to be sitting here at 10-0. You know, but that's me, and my glass is always half full. You know, and I just think that given whatever, we ought to be sitting here 10-0. So now that's gone, though. That season's gone. Now we start the new season. Let's crank it up. Let's get after it, and not even worry about those 4 losses at this point. Let's go and make a run. You know, let's dominate people. Let's dominate people that we ought to be dominating. You know, make them is I won't say word for word like Nick Saban said, but make them quit.
We are on a church station.
All right, I understand that, and I'm a church kind of guy, so I'm not going to go into that. So,
but you hit on a point right there, Coach.
And I'm a church kind of guy, so I'm not going to go into that. So,
but you hit on a point right there, Coach, because you can say all you want to about lackluster offensive performance. You can say all you want to about crowd not being in the games. If we were doing a year-end review show right now rather than a playoff forecast show, I would tell you, if Scooby Graham doesn't fumble at the 1 against First Coast, we win that game. The other night, if John Green doesn't fumble on the last possession, and I'm not calling these guys out. I'm just saying if that.
Sure, you're not.
No, I'm not calling them out. I'm just saying if that doesn't happen, there's a chance we go down and score at the end of the game the other night and win. And those are games that you win not playing your best, right? So
right.
You're right there. That gives you 8 wins on the season. There's no way in the world our defense is going to allow Ridgeview to score a touchdown that late after we go get the touchdown there, and we did. So that's another game we should have won. And then what's the other one that I missed? Oh, St. Augustine.
St. Augustine was an anomaly. You know, we didn't realize how good we could be, and a lot of things went into that game. But I'd like to have every one of those games back, but we can't. But what we can have is the playoffs and a good playoff run.
Yeah, but you're easily right. I mean, take away the first game of the year because you don't know what you're going to get first game of the year. We easily could have been 9-1, 10-0 this year, but we're not. I agree with you. Put the past in the past. This week starts a new season because everybody's 0-0, except Gadsden because they're 0-9. So
right.
How much has that been talked about this week? We're going to talk about that though. But before we get to the midway point, I want to say, you know, our Farm Bureau player of the game is with us tonight, Cameron Crawford.
One of mine.
There you go. A guy that's a sophomore in high school, and Jackie and I probably called Cameron's name in the first half the other night. I don't know, at least 10 times. I mean, 2 times. And he's the guy that's done it. Hey, stay with me for just a minute. He's done it offensively and defensively. Before we get Cameron on the air here, I want to ask you, because Coach Rogers will probably be here in the halfway segment. John, I don't know if we'll get you back on here tonight. So I've
already started that Fire Coach Rogers blog on the internet. I'm bucking for the job, so we'll see. He better hurry up and get here.
Well, but here's what I want to know from you. Nobody knows who Hernando is. This is Hernando County down there, mid-central Florida, Tampa area. This is the old Brooksville Hernando High School. A team that historically, I think back in the 80s or so, they had a team that went to the playoffs a lot. But either way, Hernando's coming in, Coach. Just in a couple of minutes or so, tell us what we're going to see with the Hernando team. Now, they average, just for comparison's sake, we're giving up 12 points a game on our defense. They're giving up 13. So scoring-wise, defensively, we're comparable. One game on the offensive side, and we score about 20 to to compare. So what are we going to see? What's Hernando going to do? What do they look like on film?
We're going to see the Cats Wally slop them, and we're going to see the white towels fly from the other side, and it's going to be 34-6 when the final bell rings. Okay. So.
No, I like it, but I wanted the technical. What are they going to do on offense?
They're going to come at it. No, honestly, they're going to run the wing tee, which we haven't seen all year. Passing is not their forte, but what they'll do, they'll run 11 plays in a row, no matter what the result, and then all of a sudden they'll play action and throw a pass. So you can't be running up to the line and some guy's flying by you for an easy 6. We can't give up the easy 6. If we don't give up the easy 6, what I said comes true. You can't be running up to the line and some guy's flying by you for an easy 6. We can't give up the easy 6. If we don't give up the easy 6, what I said comes true. Offensively, if the offensive linemen know their assignment, we can mash anybody, So
if you look at our offensive line, they should be able to match it.
Right.
I mean,
right.
Look at it.
So, and we're going to do some things formation-wise to put them at a disadvantage this week. Out on the edge, I think we have more speed than they do.
Yeah.
But honestly, they're a well-coached club. I mean, but when it comes down to it, if we play with what we've talked about and we come with that dog, I don't know why we shouldn't be rolling into the next week and get a roll going. Like Coach Rogers told him today, his goal is he wants to be eating.
You're their defense. I said they're only giving up 13 a game. Were they physical on defense?
They are, and they do some things. They run a 3-5, a 3-3 stack in the middle, three down linemen, 5 linebackers, and a cover 3, which we haven't really seen much cover 3 all year. So there's some things that we think we're going to be able to attack and attack well and have some success. But again, it all comes with Bernie and them guys up front. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If they know who they're blocking and they get on them, we can drive the ball down anybody's throat, and we just need to do it with some excitement Friday night.
I would love nothing more than to see the atmosphere that we saw as we headed down the playoff run last year in the same type of atmosphere this Friday night. I hope it's loud. I hope it's crowded. I hope that it's hard to get a seat in the general admission when people are lined up at the gate. I mean, that's what general admission when people are lined up at the gate. I mean, that's what makes those type of games bring that energy and makes us look forward to calling the game. There were times Friday night when I almost went to sleep. It was tough.
I mean, if after this spill tonight by Coach Staples, if that don't make you want to get down there and get loud and run through a brick wall, man, I don't know what will. I appreciate it. I mean, let's be honest, Coach Rogers, he's turned into a politician anymore, and so I appreciate you bringing the fire back a little bit and getting us pumped up, man.
Well, come on down Friday night. Like I said, just don't get too close to that sideline.
John, thanks for joining us. Go over there and have some hush puppies with John Kennedy and Kelly and some of the guys. And if Coach Rogers for some reason doesn't come here, we're going to have you on the last half.
So I get to be a guest picker for the college games right off.
And we're going to do that regardless. But if Coach Rogers doesn't show up, then come back and join us in a few minutes. So, somewhat starts with, I think it starts all the way from the coaching staff to the players to the fans to everybody. What about, so Benny Fish also checked in here on the American Recycle text line. He's asking injury-wise. So do you know, Cameron, we're going to bring Cameron in. We'll talk about injuries in a little bit and see about that. But, Benny, I got your question, and we'll get that to Coach Rogers when he gets here. So, again, American Recycle text line, 904-859-6383, 904-859-6383. So, with all that, we welcome in our our Farm Bureau Player of the Week, Mr. Cameron Crawford. How you doing?
Good.
Cameron, number 12 in the program, number 1 in everybody's hearts, right?
I don't know about that.
I got one question for you. If you're fishing Cameron, number 12 in the program, number 1 in everybody's hearts, right?
I don't know about that.
I got one question for you. If you're fishing in a group of lily pads and the water is fairly dark, are you going to put on a June bug or watermelon seed?
Probably June bug.
A little bit darker to go with the low clarity?
Yes, sir.
I was fishing in some of that yesterday, and the watermelon seed was the way to go. I'm just going to tell you. I'm going to take you with me one day.
Yes, sir.
You still like to fish?
Yes, sir.
All right. So, Cameron, we played Dunellen Friday night. You've been here all year. You're a sophomore on the team, playing on both sides of the ball. You know, one of the things in Baker County that happens a lot of times is guys get called to play on both sides of the football. You've been on the offensive side and some good catches, and we've called your name on the defensive side too. But Friday night, I don't know if you had something figured out that everybody else didn't have, but you were around the ball all night.
Well, I mean, when you have a senior class around me like I do, it makes it pretty easy on the field to make plays. I mean, you got Bernie, you got Kelton, you got Chase. I mean, those guys just make it easy for you.
Did you walk over to Kelton Nab before the game and say, hey, can I get a couple tackles tonight? Just get out of the way?
I kind of did. I had to get him.
I'm joking. But so you heard what Coach Staples said. You're a player that's on that team. Now, you're young. Some of those other guys are a little bit older. But where's that leadership come from right now?
I think the senior class just stepped up. And so, I mean, Tyler, you can see it obviously on the field when he comes off the field.
Yep.
But Coach Jamie does a good job at practice, too. But Coach Staples, I mean, ever since he's came along, those receivers have been picking it up at practice.
Different level, man.
It's a different breed, right?
Yes, sir.
I mean, somebody told me something last week. They said, you know, you're a competitor or you're not.
Yes, sir.
And when you stop and think about that, you know, in the game of life, I mean, there's always different styles of competition, but everything you do in life is a competition, you know, and it starts when you're a kid, you know, and it goes all the way up. And if you're not always competing, you know, it's hard for me right now because you see my 7-year-old son over there, and he's playing baseball and he's playing flag football and stuff, and the hardest thing that I'm trying to get him to learn is how to compete, right? I'm telling him, the people that you're playing against are trying to beat you every time you go out on the field. It doesn't matter if they're 0-9. It doesn't matter if they've got a state championship last year or not. It doesn't matter if they've got a state championship last year or not. They're trying to beat you. And if people can have that mindset where all I want to do is beat this guy into the dirt, and you carry that emotion with you, I think it changes a lot of things, right? And you got to have it. You got to have it because if you don't have it and the other guy comes with it, even if he might not be as good with you as you, what's going to happen?
Going to get beat
on any given day.
Yes,
right?
sir.
And let me just say this:
Yep.
it shouldn't be that hard. I mean, you're a Crawford man. I mean, you guys have been fighting since before you could walk. You got a twin brother over there that I know y'all push each other your whole lives. You know, so kind of tell me how's that helped you? I mean, you're a sophomore on varsity this year. And your brother Carson, a great football player, got moved up to varsity at the end of the season. They really needed him down on JV to play that quarterback position this year. So kind of tell me, what do you do together? To get ready to play football on Friday night?
Well, I mean, we go to the field on the off days and on the off season a lot. And from a young age, my dad told me that there's always going to be somebody that's better than you. So, I mean, my dad's done a lot for us. He's instilled a lot of hard work into us. But, yeah, me and Carson put in work on the off season a lot. But don't think in the Clay game when he threw 2 interceptions, I wasn't in his ear. And he's in my ear, too, during the game. But we just push each other. My dad told us to push each other. So.
Well, that was the next question that I had for you was, what's it like to be Joe Crawford's son? Because I've known Joe Crawford literally all my life. And I watched him play football back in high school. He's a couple years younger than me now, but there's nobody that played harder than your dad. And I know that you weren't around to see that at the time, and you can't. That thing on the field, is he in your ear?
Oh, they'll upload the huddle at 12 o'clock at night. At 1 o'clock, he'll be in there in my room, tell me what I did to him.
I think the more interesting question would be is how does it feel to be Simon Crawford's nephew? That's got to be tough.
That's probably a different show.
But, hey, man, you've been playing good ball this year. I know your dad, he stays on you hard, which is a good thing. Your brother's always in your ear. But tell me from your perspective, going along the lines of the leadership thing, and I know you said we got guys like Bernie and Kelton now, but as a sophomore, what do you feel like your place in the team is when it comes to that? Because I'm going to tell you, Mike's not lying. On Friday night, I'd say the first 5 minutes, I bet we called your name 4 or 5 different times. I mean, it seemed like you were one of the guys making some big plays out there. So do you just get in and try to hide, or do you want to stand out?
No, I try to stand out. Every time I get in, I try to make a play. I mean, they moved me up for a reason. I mean, that's all. Every time I get in, I try to make a play. I mean, they moved me up for a reason. I mean, that's obviously to make plays when I'm in there. So I try to do my best. I mean, every time, because I got Joe Crawford on my back.
Well, I want to know, getting away from football for just a second, what's it like? What do you like to do? I already mentioned fishing. What is it that you like to do? And tell us a little bit about what you like to do in life.
Just fish, hunt. I mean, that's about it. Just spend time with my family, too.
Yeah.
I mean, my dad, I'm around him 24/7, so you're always doing something that surrounds yourself with football. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, you say that now, but when you walked in tonight, you got to host the family here. I saw you sitting next to some little blonde-haired girl over there that didn't look like a relative. So don't tell me girls aren't in the mix a little bit now.
Don't tell Kelly.
Who's your favorite college team?
Florida Gators.
Yeah, well, that's another story right now too. Me too, and all my life. And let me tell you, I've lived and died with some of the best and the worst seasons I've ever seen. And I still think Mullen's going to pull it around, but the jury's out right this minute on the rest of this season. But so you've been working though for the past several years, and I know middle school and JV. You've been working to be a quarterback, and that's something that you really like to do, right?
No, my brother's been working. To be a quarterback.
I got it wrong. What am I doing? Y'all look just alike. I had to ask somebody earlier. Which one's Cameron? I'm kidding. Jackie did.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I'm around y'all a lot, and I can't tell y'all apart. So, what did you come into high school football? What position did you want to play?
That's a better question.
I was just going to play running back and safety, but then one day I decided I might just give the receiver a try. So it worked out. Coach JJ likes me. I think Coach Stables likes me. I'm not sure.
That's hard to tell. I've been around him a long time, and I still don't know if he likes me or not. So that's
you ain't the only one. I've known Staples forever, and I don't know to say hello to him sometimes. You just don't know.
But I can tell you, if you make diving catches like you made in that game Friday night, he'll learn to like you. Because, man, that was a good catch. Tell me about that play a little bit. You were going across the middle. A lot of high school athletes, man, they get a little leery when they go across the middle knowing the safety's bearing down, and you just laid out for a ball.
I don't know. I wasn't expecting Alex to throw that ball to me, but, I mean, he put it in the window, and I just had to go get it. Nothing really was going through my mind. I mean, I was just expecting him to throw it to Avant, but he looked my way, so I had to go get it, make a play on the ball.
That was a heck of a play, and I know what was going through. I got to catch this, or my daddy's going to be in my ear again.
I think Coach Staples would have been worse than my dad.
You get it twice, man. That's bad. You get Staples and then Joe Crawford on top of it, so you're in a bad spot, man. You better make every ball that's thrown to you a catch. What about, I asked a couple guys this year, what gets you hyped up before a game? What's on your iPod that you're listening to?
I don't really listen to a bunch of music before the game. I kind of like to be. I don't really get on my phone much. But Tyler's pregame speeches get me pretty pumped up. I have to admit it. He can pump somebody up pretty quick.
I saw Tyler I guess it was around the third quarter of the Clay game here at home. The game we went on to come back. That was a 17-0 deficit before halftime, and we came back to win that game. And I saw Tyler on the sideline, and he called out the whole team. He said, "This is embarrassing." And I could hear him from up in the press box, and we've got these headsets on, and you can't hear when you got these headsets on, and I could hear him from the sideline. And I thought that was good leadership. I mean, you got to have you got to. I know that everybody's accountable for their own motivation that should show up to the game this Friday night that's not ready to play. I mean, there's nobody on the team. There's no excuse for that. But it's also good to have some leaders around you that when something might not necessarily go right in the game, they're there to pick you up, right? You got to do that for each other. But, you know, I've enjoyed watching you guys play this year. There's nothing better than I would like to see as a 3, 4, 5 game run here where we get on a roll and get going, and it starts this week. So if you want to share a message with the team from us up here on the radio crew, you just tell them that everybody's behind them. We're ready to see them play, but we need them to come out and compete.
I mean, we just got to play as a team. I don't think that's what we've done a whole lot this year, but when we play as a team, I think nobody can beat us because, I mean, we're the Baker County Wildcats. There's no better place to be on a Friday night under those lights than Baker County.
There's a whole lot of people that would agree with that.
Don't get too emotional, man, because your mom has cried for like 3 days ever since I told her you were player of the game. She told her you were player of the game. She was crying before senior night, and she's getting emotional back there now. So you may want to take her some napkins. But, man, we wish you the best, Cameron. I know we got 2 more years of you playing some good high school football for these Wildcats, and got your brother coming up with you too. So hope to keep calling out you Crawford boys for at least the next 2 years.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and I also, Justin Webb's here with us from Farm Bureau, and each and every week they've been sponsoring a Farm Bureau Player of the Game, and along with Jack Baker and Ricky Duggar, and that's a gift card from those guys for you. And I know that before you leave, Justin's going to want to take a picture with you, so make sure he gets to do that.
Yes, sir.
But congratulations to you. Go back over there and get some food with Joe and ask him what he saw on Huddle today that's going to help you get ready for the game. But listen, best of luck Friday night. We're behind you guys all the way. Go Wildcats.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, Cameron Crawford. If you're listening to us on the radio and you go to the game Friday night, Cameron's number 12. You can watch for him. He'll be on the offense and the defense. We got a lot of those guys going both ways. And Jackie, you're right. I mean, the other night, Cameron's a 10th grader playing out there, and we've got several. We've talked about it. Zane Mobley's the 10th grader that's playing out there. I think Ross Crummey's the guy that's starting on the offensive line now. He's the 10th grader. Mm-hmm. Some other guys that are 10th graders, Wesley Stagg, a guy that got called in to be a center when Ace Cruz was out for several games. He's a sophomore.
Weston Avera out there playing on the defensive line.
That's Kelly's nephew right here, Weston Avera. I mean, I went to school with Matt, so I call him Avera, but it might be Avera. But, yeah, there's a lot of sophomores. It's good to see those guys getting some action. And we've got a bunch of juniors on the team. But I think the point that Coach Staples made earlier was, there's a lot of sophomores. It's good to see those guys getting some action. And we've got a bunch of juniors on the team. But I think the point that Coach Staples made earlier with the offensive line that we have, if these guys get in the right mindset and we go play Hernando, I was looking for a little more insight from Coach Staples about what Hernando is going to do, but I get it, 34-6. We're going to get Coach Staples back up here for the rest of the show because we got to have a member of the coaching staff to talk to as we get down the line here. But, again, text us on the American Recycle text line, 904-859-6383. I can't say thank you enough to the guys at Farm Bureau for making it a point to have a guy from the team up here each and every week. We've had guys that really, really, really like to talk, and then we've had guys like Jumbo Elliott last week that do their talking with their play on the field. So it's been good having those guys. I think Cameron's our first sophomore that we've had this year.
Would agree with us that this wasn't, as your record indicates, not the season you want to have. You don't want to be 6-4 going into the playoffs necessarily, but the future's bright, man, and we're in the playoffs. And so now, who says that you can't go to state? You're in the playoffs. You know what I mean?
All right, Coach, let's transition and let's talk about some other stuff. So there's been a lot of grumbling going on ever since Saturday morning when these playoff lists were released. And there's teams in Jacksonville like Jackson that feel like they've got left out because of the system. Now, I'm going to ask you this question. You've been around and you've seen things over the years, and I have too. I've seen it where we had one team from every district that made the state playoffs every year. And even if you went 9-1, but you lost that one game in district, you didn't go to the playoffs.
That's right.
Then we moved to the 2-team format where the first, the championship team went along with the runner-up. So you had 2 teams from every district. It didn't matter if a district along with the runner-up. So you had 2 teams from every district. It didn't matter if a district only had 2 teams. They still both went. So now we've got a new format in play. It's been in play now for the 2nd year, and it's a points-based format based on our points now. So the way that this thing worked great for us last year is we played the same schedule. We played the exact same schedule this year that we played last year. Some of the teams on our schedule last year were better than they are this year, record-wise.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Clay is a great example of that, along with St. Augustine. Both of those teams, much better records last year than they had this year. So based on the points and that strength of schedule and all that formula that they put into it, bonus points and everything else, our points total this year was a lot less than it was last year. We were one of the top in the area last year. And because of that, when we went to the playoffs as a district champion last year, we were the number 1 seed. When we went to the playoffs as a district champion last year, we were the number 1 seed in the region, which meant that for the first 3 rounds, we were guaranteed a home game. This year, because of the point system and the way things work, our points aren't as high. Therefore, our average isn't as high. And now we go in, out of the 4 district champions in Region 5, or Region 2, I'm sorry, in 5A, we're the number 4 seed.
Yes.
So instead of 1 playing 8, which would have been our first round this year, like it was last year, we're 4 playing a 5 seed. So that means Hernando's point total is good enough that out of those 5 through 8 teams, they're the top dog in that group. What do you think? I mean, I just want your overall opinion, just as a guy who pays attention to what's going on. What's your overall opinion on how this system is working so far?
Well, let me go back to the old system first.
Yep.
If they would have made the districts comparable, you wouldn't have had to go to this system. But the way it is, I think this is a fair system. Now, people over at Andrew Jackson High tonight are probably telling you a different story.
Right.
But for the most part, the best teams in the state of Florida are getting in the playoffs. So I think it's a good system. It can be a complicated system at times until you figure it out. And once you know how it works, it's not very complicated at all. If you play 10 5-5 teams and you win them all, you're going to be in there every time. You know, it's when you beat lesser teams that causes you problems, or get beat by lesser teams.
Right.
So strength of schedule comes into play, but the bottom line is win all your games and don't worry about it.
Beat it. A winless team's going to get over a Jackson team that won 4 games this year. But if you go back and look at their schedule, 6 games that Jackson played were Tier 4 teams,
right,
which is the lowest possible point division, in the playoff system. So all they had to do was play one juggernaut, and they could have lost that game 100-0. Didn't matter, and that would have gave them enough points to project them into the playoff. So,
and they actually had that scheduled, and then the game got canceled, so they ended up with only 9 games that they played this year, which hurt. If they'd have just played the game and lost it, they still would have had enough.
My feeling is on it.
Yeah.
You're both horrible football teams. Why even worry about it? You know what I mean? You got more things to worry about than whether you got in the playoffs to lose the first-round playoff game.
No, I totally agree with you. And the only reason we're talking about Jackson is because you've heard it around here because they're local, right? I mean, I'll tell you this. I've seen all 3 systems, and so have. In the old days, I mean, that was tough. I mean, the first year that Baker County won the district championship in 1989, and you got a guy like right here, Kelly Cruz, he played in the 80s. That they never won district championships, and I promise you, if you talk to Kelly, they had some good teams that had they made it to the playoffs, they could have beaten people, right? You'd agree with that, Kelly. So in '89, we won the first district championship.
Hey, wait a minute. Kelly Cruz played in the late '80s?
No, I said he played in the early '80s.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. I was going to say he's older than me, and that would have made me coaching him back then.
Now, he played in the early '80s, which, and what I'm saying is the first district title we ever won here was '89. So all those teams leading up to that, you had to be the district champion to go to the playoffs.
Right.
Well, in '89, we had Stark, Santa Fe, and Baker County all in the same district. And those teams were good. I mean, that Santa Fe team back then, you remember a guy named Shea Showers went and played football, and I think in the early 90s. In the early 90s, he was there in '91. So they were football players. What I'm getting at, and we had one of the best teams we've ever had here in '89. But you take those three football teams, two of those three that were really good football teams that year didn't make it to the playoffs.
Right.
So the thing that I like about this format is last year you saw in the same district, Baker County, Menendez, and Clay all made the playoffs in the same year. So I think you've got the opportunity with the new system now to reward teams when there might be those districts that have, like you said, it's not comparable in the district. So since it's not, at least you're given the opportunity for the better districts to shine.
Right. And you know, not to bring up a sore subject around here right now, but if Ridgeview would have won a couple games early that they probably could have or should have won, sure, they'd have been in the playoffs because they had back-to-back wins against Menendez and then us, you know. So
yeah, the two theoretically best teams in the district.
You know,
the two theoretically best teams in the district.
So you know, it comes down like we talked about though. You still got to win ball games, man. It's what life's all about. You got to win. Be a winner. Everything else will take care of itself.
There's no team in the state that can go 9-0 or 10-0 and not make the playoffs, right?
That's correct. That's correct.
So you're right. I mean, inevitably it comes down to winning ball games. You're still involved with the old district playoff with the baseball team. I mean, we're stuck in a 3-team district with Swanee and Bolt, you know, who predominantly have great baseball programs. So,
they are. I officially retired this week, so.
Oh, okay. Well, congratulations on
Thank you.
retiring again. But we've had really good teams. It just so happens that the right times they've had really good teams too, you know. So a team that we could have potentially taken a deep run into the playoffs, we don't make the playoffs. So
right.
I'm all for the point system. I think there's a few. They're still tweaking the point totals a little bit. You better play harder games,
right?
You know, but at the end of the day, you still got to win. And I think the best teams in the state are in the playoff system. We took 3 teams from our district last year, who I thought were 3 teams that could have beat a lot of other people in the state of Florida.
Right.
So I think they're on the right track. This year, our district was obviously down a little bit. I'm not saying we didn't deserve to win it at all, but record-wise compared to what they did last year, and we still got 2 teams in, Menendez and us. So I look to Menendez to maybe make a run in the playoffs as well, and a chance for us to meet them in the 3rd round potentially if everybody makes it.
And I'll tell you what, as far as our 2nd round game after we win Friday, Nature Coast plays Eastside. Me and Coach Rogers went down and scouted Eastside about a month ago, and I'm telling you that's going to be a tough ball game. That's going to be a tight ball game. I'm telling you that's going to be a tough ball game. That's going to be a tight ball game, and it could go either way. So we may end up having 2 home games in a row.
Yeah, and, you know, we talked about last year, Nature Coast is the #1 overall seed in Region 2 this year. Nature Coast was a team that made the playoffs last year that we absolutely dominated. They won their district last year, and, I mean, we just pummeled them at home the first game of the playoff. So that's another thing is you get 2 totally different brands of football a little bit. You want to come up here and you want to play the Baker Counties and the Clays and these North Florida teams that, like you said, can line up and just pound it down your throat at any time, where they like to play a little pretty boy football, you know, and pitch it around and throw it around some.
Right.
So I think we got a shot definitely to make a good run. That East Side, you know, Nature Coast game 1-8. East Side wins that game. We're back home again for 2 games. So a lot of things can still happen. We just got to get it together and get it together in a hurry.
Last thing, Coach, tickets this week. Reserve tickets can be picked up at the high school, right? If you have, I need to ask the AD.
Dude, I don't even know where I'm getting my last meal. The next meal, and you're asking me about tickets to the Friday game.
Go see Brandy Davis or Katie Kennedy in the
I'm worried about growing cabbage over at the Cats Academy, and you're asking me about tickets to the game.
All right. Well, let me just the tickets for reserve section
at the high school, and then the Booster Club will be Thursday night at the Farm Bureau office. Okay. We'll be there from 6 to 7:30. That'll be the only night that we're selling our tickets. So if you are a Booster member and you have Booster reserve seats, come up Thursday night to Farm Bureau and pick those up.
All right, so Booster tickets Thursday night at Farm Bureau, 6 to 7:30. reserve seats, get up to the high school, see Brandy Davis or Katie Kennedy up there and care of you. You got to pay for them, and they'll give you the tickets. 7 o'clock, Friday night, Memorial Stadium.
7:30.
It is 7:30.
7:30.
Is that for sure?
Yes, that's for sure. We talked about this last year, though. Remember
right.
it was crazy that if they made everybody move their games at 7 o'clock in the regular season, why don't they not do 7 o'clock in the playoffs? But the playoffs are still 7:30.
Okay. All right, well, good. That gives us that extra 30 minutes. And in the old days, every game at Memorial Stadium used to be 7:30. Jacksonville started this nonsense where they started moving all the games up to 7 o'clock, and then somehow or another that fed into our contracts where when we started signing these contracts, the games were at 7 instead of 7:30. But that 7:30 game time is much, much better.
Time change. I'm going to have to get a nap in. I'm not going to lie.
Well, Coach, we're going to turn this last segment into one of my favorite segments, and having you here is going to be fun because, I don't know, Coach Rogers has kind of given up on anything else other than, he doesn't really care about college football or anything anymore. It's like the Jets are no good now, and FSU is having a tough season. It's hard to get him to talk about this stuff. So we're gonna talk about it, though. So college football playoffs right now have Alabama number 1, Clemson number 2, Notre Dame number 3, and Michigan number 4. Which one of those teams does not belong?
Notre Dame by far. Not even close, Notre Dame.
Notre Dame's the odd man out.
Yes.
So because all these teams, this is what I'm getting to next. All these teams are coming down the stretch here are going to play games which have the opportunity to knock them out of there. So Michigan's still got to play Ohio State.
Yes.
Michigan's still got to play Michigan State. Those are always tough games for them. Notre Dame this Saturday taking on Florida State. We're going to talk about these games in a second. Alabama, they always finish with Auburn. Auburn's not as good this year, but that game, Florida State, we're going to talk about these games in a second. Alabama, they always finish with Auburn. Auburn's not as good this year, but that game will have.
Right. It doesn't matter in that game.
It doesn't matter in that game. Clemson, they're a team that on their schedule, I don't think they've got any real big ones left. They do play South Carolina, but then they'll have the ACC championship game, which right now looks like they might play Pitt. So Clemson might have the easiest road to the college football playoffs of anybody, right?
Right, and I think realistically, Clemson's the only team that has a shot at beating Alabama.
Okay.
And everything, I won't jump ahead.
No, that's okay, because I want to set this up for us to talk about it here. We got about 8 minutes left in the show. So Georgia is on the horizon for Alabama, probably Alabama's toughest game heading into the college football playoffs. So let's just say Notre Dame is out. Okay, somebody knocks Notre Dame off, head down the stretch.
Right.
Notre Dame's out. Who's the next team in?
Well,
Notre Dame's out. Who's the next team in?
Well, sorry for all the Dog fans, but I'm predicting they're going to get upset this week by Auburn.
Yeah, Auburn's going to Georgia. 7 o'clock game.
Upset Saturday. Here, and then it won't matter how bad Alabama beats Georgia. So
now, what's the basis of that prediction, Coach?
That game is another one where you throw out the records. And think about Gus Malzahn. He's always got one foot out the door, and then he gets on a roll until he goes on another backslide. So this might be the week that happens. It shouldn't happen, but you never know. After watching LSU against Florida and Alabama, who is Georgia?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I mean, to lose to LSU like that.
Yeah.
So I just think be a dark. So we'll see. But I don't think it will be Georgia. I think somebody will slide in like a UCF, a West Virginia, a Washington State. I think there's going to be a dark horse that slides in, that runs the table and slides in there.
It's going to be tough because I'm going to ask you the same question, Jackie, but it's going to be tough because down the stretch, West Virginia's still got to play Oklahoma.
Right.
You've got these games, and then they actually are probably going to play each other twice.
Those are games that will propel somebody like West Virginia.
Right. So same question for you. Top 4, who's the one that doesn't belong?
I said it last week. I agree with Coach Stables. I think Notre Dame, they're always going to slip up somewhere along the line. I'm not sure that Florida State doesn't beat them in a game where those guys are trying to rally and get back on track. I do have a question for you guys. We posed this at work today. should UCF, and I'm not saying I agree with it, but should UCF, and I'm not saying I agree with it, but should they let them go into the number just to get pummeled by Alabama to finally prove that those teams don't belong?
You know what? I think they will give Bama trouble at times, but Bama will run through them like a hot knife through butter on UCF's defense.
Absolutely. And so you put them as a 4 seed where there's not great implications there. You know what I mean? It's a
42-17 game.
Yeah. And those 17 are probably picked up in the fourth quarter when you got the backups who are still 4 and 5 stars on the field for Alabama. Alabama, I'm not cheering against Georgia, but I told Kelly Cruz and I told Mr. Donald Wilford tonight that nobody is going to beat Alabama. With all things equal, Alabama beats anybody in the country by 3 touchdowns.
But here's the problem. All things are not always equal.
Right.
And the game, and I agree. I mean, right now, Alabama, by far, I mean, they got the best quarterback in the country, there's no doubt. They've got receivers that make other teams' receivers look ridiculous. I mean, Jerry Jeudy makes Kadarius Toney look like a kid. You know,
if Tua goes down with that knee injury,
that's right.
Okay,
that's right.
Before the SEC championship game, I honestly think Georgia can stay within 3 touchdowns of Alabama if Tua is not playing.
Yeah, within 3 touchdowns.
So let's get to the game, though, Jackie. Let's get to the game. But real quick, to answer your question about UCF, here's the only question that you have to ask yourself, and we're not going to debate this on the radio. You take an average strength of schedule team, all right? I want you to take an average strength of schedule team, and I'm going to give you one. Boston College. Take an average strength. Their strength of schedule in the country is number 62, which is 50 points ahead of your team, all right? I want you to take an average strength of schedule team, and I'm going to give you one. Boston College. Take an average strength. Their strength of schedule in the country is number 62, which is 50 points ahead of UCF, okay? Go look at Boston College's schedule, and then you tell me if UCF played that schedule, what their record would be right now. Just do it. We don't have to debate it. That's all I'm saying. Their defense gave up 700 yards to Temple.
So Jackie has a homework assignment before next week.
That's right. I want y'all to do that. Anybody listening, I want you to do that. I want you to take Boston College's schedule, and you just ask.
But you just said it. You don't ever know on any Saturday. So what I'm saying is they beat a good Auburn team last year. To end the discussion, put them in the number 4 and let them get pummeled when it actually means something to a top-tier Division I program.
It's different to beat Auburn in the Peach Bowl last year
that's what I'm saying.
Play Virginia Tech one week, Miami the next week, Clemson different than playing Auburn one time.
If UCF is undefeated at the end of this year for 2 years in a row, they have to be in the top 4. They have to be in the playoff. They have to be.
I think you put them at number 4. I'm not saying they earn that. What I'm saying is they gotta get what's coming to them, man, and play. All
right. Well, here's the question for all 4 of you, or all 2 of you. Here's the games this week for those teams that we just talked about. Notre Dame plays FSU. Notre Dame's at home. Alabama plays Mississippi State on the road. Clemson plays Boston College. Boston College on the road. And Michigan plays Rutgers. Any chance of any one of those 4 going down this week?
Absolutely not.
All 4 wins.
All 4 wins. What do we got? Notre Dame by 4 touchdowns. Who's the next one?
Alabama, Boston College.
That's another close one. 10 points.
That's my upset.
Michigan, Rutgers. Michigan's going to win.
Yeah, they'll pummel them.
All right, last question for you both also. Will Muschamp comes back to Gainesville this week. Florida's reeling a little bit, 2 losses in a row. They started 6-1. We're ranked in the top 10. And really 2 weeks in a row kind of got away from them in the third and fourth quarters against 2 teams that one of them's really good and one of them hadn't had an SEC win until last week. So does Florida win this week, guys?
Yes.
Can I have a stipulation?
Yeah, which quarterback?
Which quarterback? And I'm not the guy that's saying get rid of Franks.
Yeah.
All right. Because I know for a fact, quarterback's only as good as the guys around him.
That's right.
But if Frank.
All right, well, that's going to do it. 7:30 Friday night, Memorial Stadium.